now 8.7.2, city's participation in Oaklavia.
I think by way of just introduction, the city has been approached by the group called Oaklavia, I think you're calling yourself? Oaklavia. To be included in a event that they're going to have in July. And I think rather than my trying to explain it, we have representatives here from the group that can explain what they're proposing.
Okay, please come forward.
And the Transportation Committee did hear about this, and that's why it's here.
Okay.
Yes, please. So Chris is much more articulate than me. It's Chris, I'm going to mispronounce your last, Wang. Laura McCamey, I'm on the BPAC. I'm an Emeryville resident, and I'm really excited about this opportunity because we're a very small city, and we don't have a lot of room for to have a really interesting open streets event. We could have a really tiny one, but that's not very exciting. And so when Oakland, some people from the Golden Gate neighborhood in Oakland approached us about partnering with them, it's just such a great opportunity. They have a wealth of experience and knowledge because they've done it before, and that's really making it easier for us to participate. And I want to say that some of our wonderful Oakland people, including Chris and Jim McIlvain from the city of Oakland, and Laura Ingram, who's in the Golden Gate neighborhood, have stayed until 10:45 tonight to support us. And I do want you to know, though, that I am not the only Emeryville person on the core committee. That Jen Tran from Revo Lights, which is an Emeryville business, is very involved, and Svante Rodegard, who's also on the BPAC, are very much part of it. So it's a real collaboration, and I'm going to just turn it over to Chris to explain it to you.
Great. Thank you so much. My name's Chris Huang. I'm with Walk Oakland, Bike Oakland. We're a nonprofit organization that first started to produce this open streets event we call Oaklavia, which is named after the Bogota, Colombia's version of Ciclovia that started 40 years ago. So it's a health-oriented event. It's a community-oriented event. What City of Oakland really started to realize more recently is that the many decades of building streets to flow cars through Oakland as quickly as possible wasn't doing what they had imagined should have been happening for the community. So people were feeling less connected with their communities. They weren't shopping in Oakland. They were flowing in and out of Oakland as quickly as they could. So this was actually a way to close city streets for just a few hours on typically Sundays, but with this particular event, we're aiming for a Saturday because it coincides with the second Saturday's event the Golden Gate neighborhood has been planning for the year. So what we're proposing is actually on Saturday, July 12th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Traffic on San Pablo Avenue and Doyle Street, as well as 65th and 55th Streets, be temporarily closed to auto traffic and opened back up for people to use it as if there were absolutely no worries about what could happen if cars were present. So we're talking about an event that, in our own experience in Oakland, in 2010, we closed the streets in downtown Oakland, and in 2013, we closed down the streets circumnavigating Lake Merritt, and we're repeating that event again in September this year. What we see is that kids, little tiny tots, come out and ride their bikes the first time ever without much worries. And also for a lot of people who have bicycles, roller skates, skateboards, or even walking shoes, who only pull them out once a year, they certainly pulled them out on June 9th last year and really came out to the streets and played. So that's the primary concept of Oaklavia. And for this particular open streets event, the Golden Gate neighborhood and Laura from Emeryville BPAC suggested the name Love Our Neighborhood Day. And we actually started with Oaklavia Without Borders, but that got a little philosophical. So it's actually a real pleasure and an honor to be able to partner with the City of Emeryville I'm thrilled with the concept, and we've had such great participation from individuals from Emeryville, and I surprised my husband to say I was at a city council meeting tonight, but in Emeryville, but it's actually it's a very interesting process, and I really enjoy the partnership with Emeryville. So I'm hoping that City Council will support this event, and we look forward to bringing some happy moments into open streets this coming July. I am going to introduce Jim McIlvaine. The reason why I think Oaklavia has succeeded in the past years is because of the intense partnerships with the city of Oakland. And Jim brings with him his wealth of experience from coordinating events, including Oakland Running Festivals, the Art and Soul Festivals, as well as contracting with our traffic management specialists to do other street festivals like Temescal Street Fair. So, Jim.
Well, she said it all very, very nicely. I want to make sure that the city of Emeryville and your public safety officers know that you're in very good hands, that we take this very, very seriously. Traffic management, detouring, working with Caltrans, working with the public safety officials to make sure that the streets are made safe for our citizenry. So you can have fun on these streets on this glorious day, and you can come out and play. And that's the whole point. You've heard of San Francisco has 8 Sunday street events a year all over San Francisco. I think the East Bay can start showing some more vigor by having more and more. So Emeryville and Oakland are going to partner together on hopefully July 12th with your endorsement. And again, you can come enjoy Lake Merritt on September 14th. I want to share with you our traffic management plan just a little bit. It's the same group that we work with the closing of Lake Merritt. And we had trained officials and volunteers and safety monitors. Each intersection was looked at very, very carefully. I shared some of the plans with your police chief to show the very serious nature that we take this. And we train the traffic safety monitors, we hire additional, and we do have sworn officers as part of the integrated plan. And we'll work with the city of Emeryville to make sure that is an active activity for a successful event. So I don't know if you have any questions or additional comments.
What are the hours of this event?
The street closure goes from 11 to 3, but I think you need to begin softly closing streets a little before and then open them a little bit afterward in a concerted plan. So on that Saturday, so 11 to 3 is the heart of the event.
And who does the cleanup after the event?
Well, that's part of the committee with Walk Oakland, Bike Oakland, and their volunteers and the people they bring out. A lot of it self-maintained. I mean, these little pods of activities take place. You could have a tennis playing, you could have volleyball, you could have a frisbee toss, you could have kids playing in the parks. There is food involved. Food is the highest generator of trash. Those will be in considered areas, so you'll have a higher concentration of cleanup in those areas. So for the most part, it's pretty self-regulated.
And what about sanitary facilities like porta potties?
Certainly, all that is taken into account with any kind of a major event planning when you expect many thousands of people to come into an area, and you spread them out along the entire route.
One of the concerns this is a great event, and I'm really looking forward to it, but one of the concerns in the Public Works meeting was that this rectangle from 55th Street up to 65th Street, and especially in Emeryville, bordered from Vallejo to Doyle, we want to make sure those people, the residents there, know about this because they will be blocked from getting in and out somewhat. So to make it successful, we want to be sure they understand what's happening and that there are ways for them to ingress and egress.
One of the things we've learned very strongly through 5 years of helping to work with professional race organizers in the Oakland Running Festival is a very strong, considerate plan about a good neighbor policy, about flyering and communicating, right. Not just hey, this event is coming. You can say that, you can put it on a bus board, on a billboard, in a print ad, but how does this affect you on your block for these hours during this time?
That's
it's a very specific plan.
I have to say, you mentioned the running festival.
I think, as Laura said, something we couldn't pull off on our own very easily, certainly closing San Pablo, which isn't even in Emeryville, that portion. So I hope the council would support the in-kind donation, basically, of our additional officer presence to make it a success and make it safe. And I just want to mention one thing that I'm not sure was covered for the other council members, that the Powell-Stanford connection through this rectangular loop will be open to traffic in a soft control way, so that cars will be allowed through on green lights, for example. So that we're not closing that east-west connection, which I think the combination would make it even harder for our city. So, and people would, through Powell Stanford, would be able to get into your house, for example, or your house, but would still have to be aware of not being able to get out except through a few channels. Yeah.
And I would just note that our traffic management is going to be a hired contractor who has been producing closed open streets events for us in the last 2 instances. And just an example of our volunteer force, we had about 220 volunteers at Love Our Lake Day. We were turning people away at the beginning of the event because we didn't have anything for them to do. However, we will try to prove you wrong and bring back great results. Just also another point of context, I was in Los Angeles for the last Oaklavia, where they closed Wilshire Boulevard, 7 miles of it, from Fairfax to downtown. There were huge arteries of streets cross-cutting the route itself, and it was controlled in a manner where they really thought it out, and I did appreciate the way they managed it, but it's not impossible. I think that's my lesson learned, but with great planning, and I do think that there is a lot of work to be done with the city staff to figure out where those important places ought to be. So we're trying to be thoughtful about it.
Great. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for staying tonight to make your presentation.
8.1.
We have someone here for April.
I just wanted to say I really support this event. I'm on the Bike Ped Committee, and that there's some great little micro businesses that are happening on San Pablo now between 55th and 65th. A couple of galleries that are really kind of interesting, I mean, that are self-supporting by doing silk screening and just unusual approaches to that. Unusual bike shops. There's all these that you don't notice if you're going through at a high speed. So I think this event is going to show us about our neighborhood.
And help us love it.
Let's turn to 8.